MDAs and GSS included, friends of the media, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me it's a great honor for me to be asked to chair this function. The launch of the population estimates and projections of Ghana 2021 to 2050. These estimates, as many of you appreciate, are indispensable for the compilation of most prevalence and incidence rates, serving as the denominator in most cases. They fill the gap in the intercensal period during providing detailed information on the size, age, and sex composition of the population. They also give us a distribution across the country at subnational level to the lowest level that we have the courage to go. Because the lower we go, the assumptions become more tricky. But they do give us distribution of the population. These projections are based on some assumptions, and I'm sure we will learn about them. And these assumptions are normally driven by policy. So when it's done, as we track our population, if we are not matching the population, it won't be the projections, it will be the policy, right? So, so they go hand in hand. It's an important set of information to gauge our effectiveness and the targets we set for our population trajectory. They are as good as the data used and also the assumptions. We know that the figures, and the MC told us, the figures to be released today have their base as a 2021 population and housing census. And this, of course, we have been expecting that the census will be used by many, and indeed a census is being used. But the projections and estimates and projections also bring additional value to the population and housing census. Because without that, our estimates will not be well anchored. And with it, we're able to fill the gap, as I said. We know that as a country, we've been struggling with consistency of the estimates of population. Many institutions use their own estimates for their denominators. They calculate the rates and ratios. I won't mention the fields so that nobody is shamed. The figures will tell us about ourselves and reflect to us how well our population policy is being administered. And it also tells us the growth targets, how the growth targets align with the trajectory to date. We have a lot to learn, no doubt. Let us, with keen interest and rapt attention, receive the newly developed population estimates and projections. This should bring some measure of standardization and coherence to our rates and per capita indicators, so that when I decide to calculate education, gross enrollment rates, and Ministry of Education calculates that too, we would have the same denominator. This is what standardization, consistency, and coherence in our data are all about. I wish us all a thought-provoking set of presentations and deliberations. By the end of this session, we would have learned more about ourselves and our growth, and we can even predict the census 2030, or would it be 31? 2030. So thank you all for coming, and we all wait for the results.
Thank you very much, Madam. We are grateful. Please, can we do it as she sits now? Right. Thank you very much, Madam. Next on our item is to have a remark from the government statistician, Professor Samuelenim, please. Please, can we do it for him?
Thank you very much, Mr. Osei. Colleagues, before I get into my remark, let me share with you what the board chair mentioned just about the time she was about giving her speech. She said, "Did you realize you are in the minority on the seat?" And Mr. Osei made it so obvious by saying, "Ladies and gentlemen." The board chair of the governing board of Ghana Statistical Service, Dr. Grace Bediakun, the deputy government statistician, Dr. Faustina Frimpong Engwa, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm going to focus on two things by way of opening remarks and touch on how we need to think about these population projections from a use perspective. I think the board chair highlighted the way we need to look at it, but I'm going to give a slightly different twist to it so that we all leave here having in mind how extensively we can use the population projections. Last week, we met with the Development Partner Group, and I introduced the concept of data architecture and integration to them. And that is the way I want us to look at the population projections. One, you should look at it from a micro data point of view. And what I mean by a micro data point of view is that it's supposed to serve the base for us to analyze issues beyond what the figures are. And what the base will do for you from a micro data point of view is that you don't look at that bulk figure that this is our population in 2024. What we're going to hear from the deputy government statistician is not just giving us a statistic, but it's going to give us statistics that is disaggregated to the very lowest level, such as information on single years. So we expect institutions such as the Gender Ministry to take this up and say that if now the population for this district, for this particular age cohort, across these different sects is that, how can we assess what we are doing as an institution? From that perspective, you'll be using the population projection as a micro data and not a statistic. The second one is what the board chair talked about. We are running a number of interventions. We are in an election year, and the question is, what use are we going to put those statistics to inform decision-making, either from an operational point of view or from a policy point of view? So let's leave here not only with the headline figures in terms of what is the population in 2024, what will be our population in 2030, what is the population across the 16 administrative regions. Let's get one, to the micro data, and two, let's use the bulk figures to guide us. The second thing that I want to talk about related to the issue of the statistic is we are very much aware as a service that other institutions, including the World Bank, have done some projections. Please let us be mindful about the methodologies that are out there that are used for population projections. In the delivery from the deputy government statistician, she would even share with you the different approaches that we have considered as a service and what we are putting out there as the preferred option when it comes to the estimation. I've sat in a number of programs where people have quoted our current population projection, which would be at variance with what we are going to put out there, but we always provide the metadata, the methodology guiding what we are using, and we urge you to use the methodology in the context of what you want to use the data for. If you want to use another variant that will serve your purpose, you are free to use that, and then don't confuse that with the official figure that the Deputy Government Statistician will share with us. Lastly, going back to what I talked about in terms of the data architecture. As you all are aware, we have developed a statistical online bank. We are doing dissemination at various areas, the MDA level, the MMDA level. This data is going to sit on the Stats Bank as well. It will satisfy one of the expectations that we need to use the population projections as an integral part of other data sets that we have. The other thing that I want you to always think about is this is coming at a timely, it's coming timely for us as a country, in the sense that if you are thinking about a data architecture, your base is your census data. So we shared with the development partner community is that if Ghana, we really want to push the conversation on the connection between data, statistics, and policy forward, the two things that we need to take seriously is one, our national ID card, the Ghana card, and two, our population housing census. So once we've gone ahead to do the population projections between now and 2050, we feel strongly that the base has been provided for Ghana to really start the conversation on what our data architecture should be and what our data integration should be. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. We are grateful. So what will be the connection between data, statistics, and policy now that we're getting our base right? Ladies and gentlemen, the time. We call on Dr. Faustina Frimpong Engwa to tell us what is in stock. Shall we please welcome her?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please, since I'm not eloquent, I stand on the existing protocols so that I'll make the presentation, so I don't err. Thank you. And so they've set the board chair, and then the government statistician has set the ball rolling for us to talk about the 2021 to 2050 population projections. The wealth of every nation, it depends on the quality of life of its citizens. One question I'll ask is that, how do decision makers plan for these diverse groups with different needs? We have children, we have the youth, we have adults, we have the elderly, we have the old men. All these groups, we have male, we have female. How do policymakers juggle around to ensure quality of life for all these? Because we have different needs. For example, an infant will need a syrup. An adult will need a tablet. How many doses of that tablet? This will based on the base information you have to be able to guide what we give to people. As a nation, what are we guided by? We want to develop? Do we want to stay where we are? How do we go about this? And how do we monitor the progress we have set for ourselves, or follow through the implementations of things we want to make the nation develop? So these are things that are guiding what we're talking about. Ghana is not alone. Just as other nations, we are guided by a number of documents or policies to help us achieve quality of life for all our citizenry. And so we have the National Medium-Term Development Policy Framework, 2022 to 2025. We have the Africa that we want, the Agenda AU 2063, the Africa that we want, and the SDG goals that we aspire as a nation to ensure that we collect information to be able to monitor and see how we progress through the ages. How do we do this? You can either fall on censuses, administrative data, or surveys. Are they really available in our context? In Ghana, Unlike other nations that administrative data has become the hallmark so that at the click of a button, they can tell you total population at any point in time. We have not gotten there yet. We are striving to get there. That will also follow administrative data to help us. In lieu of that, we use censuses, population and housing censuses. And population and housing censuses provides updates on the demographic, socioeconomic, housing data for research, policy, planning, to support the national developments that we have talked about. So the agenda that we have set for ourselves, the framework, the Africa we want, and the SDG, we have to set certain things to help us. And this is going to give us the broadest frame of work to be able to produce that kind of information. A census is just a survey. However, a census is complete coverage of everyone. It's not a sample that you go and compute my sampling error. Ghana, just I mentioned, we take censuses every 10 years. I've mentioned that some people have administrative data. A click of the button, they can tell. Some do 5 years. Never mind, US is developed, but they also take censuses just as we do. So we are not alone. Now, the senior data collection provides statistics at a point in time. They do not give us like year-on-year information because it's a point in time. And so how do we provide this kind of information to enable policymakers and the diverse users to be able to adapt and to know what they have to do? And so then there is a need to be able to provide information on population change during this intercensal period. So what's the relevance of the population projections? It offers insights into future demographic landscape. And so the MC talked about that in 2021, our population was 30.8 million. Are we still at 30.8? The projections will give us insights into the dynamics where we are at the moment. It also helps in tracking the implementation of the national, continental, and global development agenda that we have. So if you say we should have no poverty, we should be able to ensure that education between male and female, everybody has learning, then what are we going to use to be able to assess this? It also aims to foster collaboration as well as intersectoral approaches in planning development targets and design policies for national development. And the board chair and the government statistician did mention about this. It is not when we have provided the information, board chair talked about being a base or the denominator. And therefore, it is a collaboration between institutions that we use this information to be able to help all of us achieve that national goal we are looking at. Again, the census information and projections provide disaggregated information to meet the diverse needs of all our users. Some may want it at the national level, some want it at the regional level, some want it lower, some want it in single years, some want it maybe by sex, or some want it in broad age groups. Therefore, we have to provide this to ensure that every user gets what they need to be able to help them work. And so what are the sources of data that we use in this work? And did mention, we use the base data. The 2021 population housing census is our base data as the denominator, or which our starting point. However, we had other historical information to help us go through this process. And so we looked at the past censuses, post-census, post-independence censuses. And so starting from 1960, 1970, 84, 2000, 2010, and 2021. But in some estimates, we use the closest to be able to help us work through what we are looking at. Then we also obtain information in terms of population. What makes population change? There are 3 dimensions of population. The fertility, that is the birth rate, as we give birth, then we are increasing. As people exit this world, as people die, we decrease the numbers. And as people move from other countries and come into Ghana, they add on. When Ghanaians also move out, they also reduce the numbers. And so any one of these combinations will make the population of Ghana to change. And so unless we say we are in a stable population where nobody is dying, nobody is giving birth, and nobody is moving out, then our population will remain static and constant as we had in 2021. But since it's not possible, there'll be changes. Now, the base data, we say we are using the 2021 as our base data. Now, just as anything that you have, any data collection, they are prone to have some form of errors. The magnitude or the quantum of these errors may depend how accurately you collected the information, the comprehensiveness, or how you're able to completeness of the entire process. That will give you what you'll be able to say that indeed the information I'm using as a base is accurate to be able to make the projections. And therefore, to be able to project and make this estimation, we had to subject the 2021 population housing census to be evaluated to tell us how far and how accurate or reliable we can use this information in our activity. Now, a number of evaluation processes. The first one was before the census took place, we were guided by the principles of census data collection. And so there are international standards which we follow. And that was one of the guiding principles that we adopted. And therefore, we followed the steps from the beginning, from the planning stage, even to the end. The other thing that we performed post-census, post-enumeration survey to be able to help us validate. Then we also compared information in here with other censuses. And so we talked about 2010 census, 2000 census that we have conducted already. Now you can also compare the information or statistics that you have in there with theoretical standards. So one of the things that we say is that because we say people die, we expect that those who are 0 to 4 years, that number should be bigger than those who go to 5 to 9 years, unless people have moved in. But 4 to 5 years and 9 years can't give birth. And so either they die or moving. And so because death is whatever, we expect that the subsequent year groups will fall. But the caveat is migration can bring people in those age groups. But all that theory is accepted. And again, it's also believed that at the beginning or at birth, there are more males than females giving birth to. However, because of other things, male children die faster. Sometimes when they've given birth to and the scrotum has not descended, it's a painful process, and when it gets through, they are not able to survive and more die. So premature male children die faster than premature females. Then we also do age and sex evaluation for consistency. So within the data set itself, we checked all these ones in terms of consistency, data preference. Sometimes you ask somebody, and because the person is maybe 39, so just say I'm 40 years. Or there are some years that people don't want to talk about, or some years that we celebrate, 21st birthday, 25th, 30th, 60th birthday. And so somebody might even be 49 years, but because we want to celebrate what, is it Golden Jubilee or whatever, they say I'm 50 years. And so we have to validate for whether they have digit preference or digit avoidance for some of them. Then we also have to compare with other standards. And so we have the United Nations Age Accuracy Index, which we'll be able to compare to validate the information, to be able to assure ourselves how best we can use the 2021 census data for activity. And so a few definitions of our concepts used. So age, this is how old a person was at his last birthday with reference to the census line. Because the base data is census, we are using it, and so the reference point was 27th June 2021. So you ask anybody how old you were. So if your birthday, let's say, was from January to June 27th, you have added +1. But if you're 28th June to the 31st December, it is that year -1 because you have not crossed that day. Now, age dependency ratio. This is a ratio of the population of 0 to 14 years and 65 and older to the population 15 to 64. And so since my professor is here, he will break it down. The 15 to 64 are those people, we are international standards, they are supposed to be the working age group, and these are the ones that depend on them. And so when we calculate it, we'll be able to know that how many extra mouths, apart from they themselves, do they need to feed, and based on these. And so we have the young and the old. So when you sum the two is the total. But when you want to know that, okay, the total gives me this number, but is it the young group that is pulling it is the older group? Because that will also need different interventions. And so we make room for the young and also the old. Then sex ratio, this is the number of males to 100 females. So when you take every 100 females, how many males are in there? Life expectancy at birth. this average number of years a person is expected to live from birth. We can also compute the life expectancy for everybody sitting here. That is the additional number of years you have to live before you die, theoretically. But we estimate for birth to know how long these ones will live by sex, male and female. The median age, this is the age exactly at which half of the population is below, and then half is what? Above. We use the median because mean is affected by what? Outliers. But this one, nothing affects it. Total fertility rate. That's the average number of children that will be born to a woman aged 15 to 49 years over her lifetime if she was to experience the current age-specific fertility rate and survive through birth to the end of her childbearing. And so in demographic terms, 15 to 49 years is a reproductive age for women, even though we know sometimes people deliver a little bit earlier or even go earlier, but this is what is termed that. So we are saying that for any person who, Faustina standing here, the number of children I will give birth to, if I experience the current age-specific fertility rate and I'm able to survive it till I am 49 years, then that will be my TFR that we have. Now, data assumptions. We did mention that there are three components of population change. We did talk about fertility, we did talk about mortality, and we did talk about migration. And so on fertility, we made three assumptions, and I did mention that we went back to historical data, and so this goes back to the 1970s. And so from data in there, around the 1970s or late thereabout, a woman of a reproductive age will give birth to almost 7 children. Within the mid-1990s, by 1998, it has reduced to 4.6 children. And then from the 2000 up to 2014, about 4 children. 2017, maternal health survey gave us that they will give birth to about 3.9 children. Census gave us 3.1. And let me explain here. The surveys use 36 months. And so, if you talk about only 12 months, maybe just last year, if we use this particular year, maybe I didn't give birth. But when you extend to 36 months, I may fall in that loop. And so, when you see those figures, that's why we try to say we provide the metadata that you go back and check. You see that one because we use the last 12 months in the census, but in the DHS and surveys, we use 36 months, 3 years prior to the data collection that we have. And so looking at it, we make 3 assumptions. Assuming at the current rate, and so we took the DHS, the 36, so we took 2 years between 2018 to 2020 to be able to arrive at, so we came to 3.69. Now, what we are trying to say that assuming nothing is done, we live in a laissez-faire community where fertility is held constant, going to grow at that constant rate, what will be? And therefore, we use that one as one preamble for a projection. Another preamble is that fertility will decline moderately over the projection horizon. The projection horizon is from 2021 to 2050. That's over a 29-year period. And we're saying that when a woman, I've said that reproductive age is 15 to 49 years. If you keep me in school, a 15-year-old in school, and I finish school at 24 years, you have delayed my childbearing ages by a number of years because 15 to 24, I was still in school. And so I was not actively producing babies. And therefore, that will limit or reduce the number in normal terms I was giving birth to. Now, when people also say that now because school fees is expensive or transportation or childcare is so people say, okay, I will limit the number of children I want to give birth to. So looking at the historical trend, we estimated that over the years from 2021 to 2050, it will reduce from 3.67 children per woman to 2.67. So we are saying that over the 29-year period, the moderate one is going to say we will reduce by 1 child. Then fertility will decline at a faster rate between 2021 and 2050. Still looking at the trends. Now, people are uptaking family planning. Even though it's not as fast as people expect, but people are, and people are also delaying, and people now make a choice that I want 1, I want 2, I want 3, not just, and therefore, and again, unmet need for family planning is also reducing. Your main need for family planning is that maybe I don't want to have children, yet I'm doing nothing to protect it. Now, people who are not married, 65% of those who are not married are really protecting themselves not to get married. And therefore, we are saying that if the pairs continue with all these interventions being put in place, we expect that fertility will reduce from 3.69 children to 2.25. Now, this rate we are using, somebody will ask, why didn't you use 2.21? 2.21 is when you have gotten replacement level. So, myself and Joseph Ingwa, we give birth to 2 children, so we have replaced ourselves, 2. But when we say it will be higher, it means that Ghana is an intermediate whereby even though fertility is declining, we have not gotten to the point that we are replacing ourselves to give birth to 2.1 children. And therefore, even though it is declining, we still hover above the fertility, the replacement level. And therefore, in our assumption, we say that it will decline over the period, but to be at 2.25 children per woman. Now we get to the mortality. And there, again, we talk about assumptions that we are made in here. And so here we talk about low survivorship, assuming, just as we are talking about laissez-faire and continue the way people are living, people are dying, how many years will they survive on or live up to? And so we say that if nothing is done, in 2021, males were 63.3 and females 66.8 years. On average, women live longer than men. Now, when we have moderate survivorship, that is, people are taking care of themselves or maybe medication or attending to clinic, what will be like? And so we project that one as well. And the high survivorship, when interventions are in place, you use your Ghana Health when you have a sick, you have GPs all around that you can go to the clinic, and we visit the hospital regularly. And they also call on us to come for checkup. We believe that more people will survive. And again, because of the age of medication, now there are drugs. In those days, maybe we didn't have even nobody surviving for cancers, but now people really survive on cancers. And so we are saying that those interventions will make people survive more. And so when we say that there's no intervention taking place, we are saying that men will gain about 5.1 years. And when there's some kind of intervention, a high intervention, they will gain 8 years. When there's no intervention for women, they'll gain 6 years. But when there's intervention, they'll gain about 9.2 years over the horizon period. Now we talk about international migration. Somebody will ask, why didn't you talk about just ordinary migration? We did project at the first national level. And so national level, whether you move from Savannah, my region, to Greater Accra, it is still within Ghana. And therefore, we don't consider it. But when you move from Ghana to Togo, move from Ghana to Burkina Faso, move from Ghana, and you stay there for maybe a year or more, intend to stay there, then there is international migration. Now, the 2 caveats here, what we use for the 2021 population housing census. We had information for 2010, but for this analysis, we restricted it to 2021 population. The reason being that in 2010, it was as of person 15 years and older, while in 2021, it was as of every household member that had moved out within the 12 months, and therefore, it was not comparable. So we used the estimate for 2021 in our work that we did. Projection methods and processes. There are different methods in which it can be used. Famous one is the cohort component approach, the ratio method, structural modeling, or trend and extrapolations. And so when it is very short period, and so before 2024, a few institutions came to Statistical Service, and we said we had not gone through the validation of assumptions, and therefore we use just mathematical procedures to be able to project for them over the short period, within 1 or 2 years, and that one, mathematical processes and then the detailed processes do not change much. And so we gave some information to people. Today, we are releasing this one, so this result supersedes any information we gave you before that time, because now we have included all that is required. The cohort component approach was used in the projection at the national level. We did project at the national level in single years, so 21 was our base, so 22 up to 50 single years. Then we did project by male, female. We have also projected by single years of age, and so 0, 1, 2, 3, up to 80 plus. Then that's at the national level. Now within the regions and then district subnational level, we use diverse methods of ratio methods. And so you can have a shift share, share of growth, or constant share, depending on the assumptions we make. Things that cannot change or things that you cannot explain about them, you know which method you use. And so the highlights. We'll look at national, regional, and the various broad age groups that we talk about. And so actual and projected population of Ghana, 1960 to 2015. So the blue shades one are the censuses that we have covered from 1960 to 2021. And so my professor did release that the 2021 population and housing census gave us 30.832019 human beings in 2021. That is actual. In the projected, 2030 will give us 37.24 million, 2040, 44.47 million, and 2050, 52.47 million. We'll go into details, and the full numbers are at the back of the report. And so projected population for Ghana by sex. And so since today is July 2, and we are making these projections, we are telling you that in 2024, projected population figure for Ghana is 33,007,618. And then you have slightly, I hope the pointer will work. The males will be 16.27, and then females 16.73 million people. And then we are saying that on average, between 2021 and 2030, 711,706 additional people will be added to the number that we have between this period. And we also say that the change between 2024 and 2021 is about 1.07 times. Now we give you a little taste about the population structure of Ghana by sex from 2021 to 2050, but we'll go back. This is 1960, 1970, 84, 2000, 2010, 2021, 2030, 2040, 2050. Now, in 1960, you saw there was a broad base. More young children, 0 to 4 years. But as the time moved on, in 2021, we realized that the proportion of children 0 to 14 years decreased from 44.6% in 1960 to 35%, while the youth 15 to 35 years increased from 33.9% in 1960 to 38.2% in 2021. Now we are saying that the population structure is going to change. So when you look here, it doesn't have that broad base again. Now people are limiting the number of children there because people are surviving. In those days, if I give it and they will die, let me give birth to more. If some die, some will remain. But now because you are sure, I give birth to 2 or 3, they will all survive. I don't worry myself giving birth to 5 or 6 because they will survive, all things being equal. And so we're moving from that broad base where there's changing the structure and it's growing up here, and then we are having the elderly also coming in here. Now, so we are saying that the population structure, the projected population structure for Ghana is expected to continue change. There will be a downturn from the children population from the 35.3% in 2021 recorded to 29% by 2050. And then we are saying that the 60 years and older is expected to increase from 6.5% in 2021 to almost 11% in 2050. Health ministry, so now the need for 60-year-olds, you need to capture it because it will be different from what we're giving to children and then what others require. Now we talked about the dependency ratio. And so we defined in there that the total is for 0 to 14 plus the 65 and above over the 15 to 64 years. The idea behind it is that we are looking at those people ideally who are not working, and depending on this working age group for support. So they feed themselves and feed additional mass. That's one we are looking at. So when you look at this blue line here, it's the total one. And so we are saying that in 2021, it was 65.76%, and we expect it to be tapering down to 56% by 2050. Now, when you look at this one, this is the adult or the old, those 60 years and above over the working group. And so we are saying that because they are surviving more, now we are going to have them increase over their lifespan to be able from the what we had initially to the dependency ratio given us. So it means that when you take only the old, it means that in 2021, those people in the economic active group had additional 7.1% to be able to cater for. When you add the children, it had 58%, and when you add the 2, it gives you 65. So here, the children used to be the more concentration. Even though it's still higher, you are seeing things are changing. Now, only children is moved from 58.5% to 45.5%, while that of the old alone is moved from 7.1 to 11%. And therefore, even though overall, dependency ratio is decreasing, the additional mass they have to feed is decreasing. The quantum, or we have to spend more caring for the elderly that are surviving. Now we also talk about population per square kilometer, so where people live. And when you look at it, less than 25, you find my people. We are here, we have land, so we are not changing that much. But by 2050, we have shifted from less than 25 people per square kilometer. But those of you in Greater Accra, as of 2021, we were 1,600 plus per square kilometer. And my boss put it in a very nice way. He is able to put it in meter by meter. Me, I'm not good at that one. By small square kilometer, we have 1,600 plus. Now we are saying that, we'll go to the details. We are saying that for 2024, for 2030 and 2024, Greater Accra, you will be 2,000 plus per square kilometer. By 2050, Bobro, 4,000 plus or 3,000 plus per square kilometer. Why? Because your land is fixed and more people are adding. Because land doesn't change unless we reclaim some portion of the sea so that you can have more land and expand in there. Otherwise, move to my region. We have space here. We can accommodate some of you, so you can come up here. Even we are also changing, and we'll move up there. So if we are too many down here, come up. Now we try to reconstruct, please, and this one is slightly different from what you may find. We constructed the senior population from 1960 to 2050. What we use is that we use the current land size of the 16 regions and reconstructed back to 1960 to be able to tell us how was maybe Ahafo or Savannah region as at 1960 using their current land space. Now, when you look at this, between 1960 and 2010, or let me say 2020, Ashanti region was the leading in terms of population size. But Greater Accra, from 2021, 20 crossed up, and then 2021 took over, and it's taking up the speed. And so if you look at this, then your population density is not going to reduce anyway, because you know your land is fixed. But you're adding more people, so it means there's going to be pressure on the land in Greater Accra here. And then you see my region, Savannah. We were down there, but we are increasing over the years in there. That same information that we have put it in another form to be able to show you the various populations that we have. And so we are saying that by Greater Accra took over from 2021, and we are saying that it is only Greater Accra and Ashanti that will cross the 7.5 million expected to cross the 7.5 million as a region on its own in terms of population by 2050. And we are saying that 3 regions, Northern, Northeast, and Savannah. So that's 3 areas that they split, 1 region that they split. We are doing well. We had the highest growth and their respective populations are expected to double by 2050. The reason being that the fertility in these areas is the highest. Even though the country is hovering 3 point something, they are still 4.5, and therefore they'll be adding more. That is why you see the numbers like that. Now we turn our attention to the projected share of urban population by region, 2021 to 2030. Somebody may ask, why are you looking at this? And we are saying that my boss promised that 2030 we'll have another census. And so even though we've done projections up to 2050, chew on these ones, because these are the intermediate that you need to take action about. And so we are saying that within 2021 to 2030, the urban share will continue to grow. And we are saying that in 2021, 9 out of the 16 regions had less than half of their population in urban areas. With time, you see some falling off. And by 2030, 7 will continue. And these will be Volta, Oti, Northeast, Western North, Savannah, Upper West, and Upper East will, by 2030, still be predominantly rural. Project of school-going age, and so we decided to look at broad age groups. We are looking at the medium term, that what will help ministry, department, agency in taking plans. And we are saying that 4 to 24 years, because KG is supposed to be at 4 years. So we are thinking that for those within 4 to 24 years, will be in school. And we are saying that currently there are about 14.8 million children of school-going age 2024. And this increased from 14.12 million in 2021. And we are saying that it is expected to increase to 15.85 million by 2030. And therefore, Ghana Education Service, Ministry of Education, and again, Ghana Health Service, more people in school-going age. So school health, educational facilities and other things, you need to plan for these ones. And their numbers are not just still at 14.2. Now, Ashanti had the highest school-going children, followed by Greater Accra in 2021. However, in 2024, we see a turnover. Well, we see a flip around. Because more people are in Greater Accra, there are more children here who will need this kind of facility, and it's expected to grow to 2.96 million by 2030. Now we look at the youth, and here we look at the international definition of a youth, 15 to 24 years. And we are saying that in 2021, there were about 6.3 million, and it's projected to increase by 662,000 to be reach 6.92 million. Now here, these are the absolute numbers. Somebody will ask that, why didn't you have that for Ghana? Because they're absolute. When you come and put in the 6 million to crowd this one out, and you may not be able to see. So that's why we didn't put that total here, but the total is in here in the text. Now we are saying that for those 15 to 24 years in Northern and Greater Accra, each of these groups will grow by 2.1 times between 2021 and 2030. Ashanti region, which had the highest in 2021, is projected to experience the lowest growth. When you take their quantum numbers and you calculate, their share of the change is lower than the others that are in there. Then we also looked at the working force, 15 to 59 years. Why in Ghana we go on retirement at 60 years, and therefore wanted to know the working force by region. And we said that the working force was 17.95 million in 2021, projected to 19 million 0.3 by 2024, and by 2030 it's expected to go to 22.1. So currently, those in working group 15 to 59 years, we estimate them to be 19.3 million. And we say that 3 northern regions, Northeast, Northern, and Savannah, are projected to have the highest increase within this group that we are talking about. When you take it over their own numbers and you compute, you find out they have the highest growth, Northeast, Northern, and then Savannah, between 2021 and 2023. So what are our key takeaway? The population pressure on Greater Accra region would deepen by 2023 because more people are coming onto a small fixed land. 2, although dependency ratio dropped a little between 2030, the fall is due to decreasing share of children, not the older. So the proportion of the age dependency ratio for the older will increase over the period. And so you need to care for them. And remember, the care for a child is different from a care for the elderly, whether hospital, home care, and other things that we give to the person. The population structure is expected to change with a further decline of the proportion of children decreasing, while that of the 60 years and older will begin to increase. And therefore, policymakers, planners, let's look at it and see where intervention must go. There is an even projected distribution of the population, as 7 regions will continue to be predominantly rural by 2030, where still more than half of their population in there will be in the rural areas. School-going age population will continue to increase within the 2021-30 period that we are looking at. And so when we get either the report or whatever, these are the links. So when you go into the data set, we have provided so that if you want it in an Excel from the form that you can play with, when you scan or click on the link there, it will give you the actual table for that. So we have that one in there for both the national and the regional links. We did not add the district links here because we'll do our regional dissemination, and therefore we'll bring that one out to them. So I want to thank the government of Ghana for supporting us and helping us to be able to achieve our work as mandated of us. We also want to thank all census committee members. We have steering committee, the TAC, and all various working groups that worked on it. We have subject matter specialists who gave us comments when we developed the projection assumptions, feedback to see what is the most reasonable things to in there. Report reviewers, all various facets of the report that people looked at to give us comments and feedback. People had to sit and spend time validating and looking at the tables to ensure that they are consistent in their final tables and formatting. And finally, we want to thank the media and again, the communication and the marketing unit of Ghana Statistical Service. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Faustina Frimpong-Engwa. Yes, please. Thank you, government statistician, and thank you, board chair, for going back to your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, we now gotten into the time for questions and answers. So the floor is open. You raise your hand, you tell us where you are from, and then you come out with your question or your comment. The floor is open. Okay,
right. Thank you. Thank you very much for very intensive work. This work doesn't take a day or a week. It takes a lot of expectation and other specialists to put this report together. I'm very happy to see this. My name is Achuayi from Ghana Health Service. I want to suggest something about this report. Sometimes when it is disseminated, at the end of the day, a lot of people don't have access to it. So for my point of view, Ghana Health Service, I would suggest that any of the statistical service, especially if you have a regional parent or regional rep, we normally do performance review at the beginning of the year. So a rep from statistical service can go in and present SATI to the regional people. At that particular review, we have a regional directors, we have a district director or district health management team who comes in. At least they will buy into it and they will start using it, especially once we use the population. Again, my next is a question, but it looked very funny. In your presentation, you made mention of women live longer than men. I want to know who came to deceive us that men should be older than women when it comes to marriage. Yes, so that is it. It looked funny. Thank you.
Right. Any Further question? Oh, okay, yes.
Thank you. My name is Samuel Atuyabwa. We know that population is a political issue. In other words, it's an issue for public policy because of the implications on healthcare, on education, on employment, on housing, etc., etc. If you look at where we are going now, would you suggest that for policymakers, would you suggest, especially for the health sector, I mean, looking at our current challenges as a country, would you suggest for policymakers that we need to do something to put a break in terms of how we are moving in size? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further? Okay.
Something just came to mind. Now that people are living longer, isn't it about time we think of the pension age, whether there should be an extension to because people have a lot of knowledge, and then within the first 5 years, they are still, young, and now we are growing, and we are going to add up to the dependency population. So I think it's about time that I'm getting there, so I need to.
He says he's getting there. I'm yet to get there. Can't see any hands, so maybe we take the response to these first three gentlemen, and then later on we'll continue. Doc?
Since there are three questions, I'll choose the easiest, and I'll leave the other two for board chair and then the government statistician. They know it all. So the easiest one is, Achu, in the reports, the information will be on our website as well. So when you get the report and you click on the link, you will get access to all in that its raw form. However, that's why we talked about the population projection is for collaborative work. And therefore, when you're having the meeting and you invite the regional statistician, he will come and talk about it. And we have regional statisticians in all the 16 regions who are capable and be able to deliver to it. So please, when we share it, the link will give you will get all the information. If there's anything that you're in doubt, there'll still be a link there that you can put in your request that we can explain further. And again, we'll go down. Today in the national report, you find the district figures, male, female, but you don't find district single figures here. Because you do that one here, when we go to the region, we won't have anything else to say. So that one is for the region, so we'll do the regional dissemination, but we have done that one as well. So we think it's important that we all use it, for betterment. But the one that you talked about, who said we should marry before, the madam is here.
Yeah, did you know that men mature later than women? That's the reason why we have that age gap. If you marry someone younger than, if a lady marries a man younger than herself, it has to be at the advanced age. At the ages of 20, 25, you are in trouble. So that's why. They say, oh. I think that was. I think it's the case that population. These figures have implications on everything we do. Planning, development, it's all about population. And so we need to be mindful of that. And as GS has been pushing for, this is something that really the policymaker has to get hold of. And MDAs, this is a good opportunity for us to pick these numbers and popularize them, because the worst thing we can do to ourselves is to use different population estimates to generate data or indicators. It means that we'll be all over the place. Policies will not be coherent because the data, if you use the wrong data consistently, at least there's a pattern. So we do need to ensure that many know about the population projections and that we adopt them. Retirement, I've retired, so I have no question. It's too late for me.
Thank you very much. I think the two questions that came up, and as the board chair has indicated, are very important, and it's our expectation that the media would carry these questions for further engagement. Definitely, we cannot take any decision based on these population projections to say that we should begin to slow down our population growth. As the Deputy Government Statistician indicated, naturally our fertility rate over time is going down. And there are countries that have gone below the replacement levels that she talked about, the 2.1. So we need to be careful about the extent and the rate at which our fertility rate is going down before we can answer the question as to whether we should be concerned about the 52 million that we're talking about in the next few decades. The second issue I really would be a headline story. It is about time we think about our pension age as a country. Let's look at the conditions that prevailed as at the time that we're pegging it at 60 years. Let's look at how it has changed over time, where we are now, and where we are going to go in the next 29 years, as these population projections figures are given to us. Then as a country, we can take a decision on whether it is time to increase it, and more importantly, increase it to what extent. Thankfully, we have one of our colleagues in the service who does issues around the elderly, and definitely we're going to take these population projection figures and see how we can provide some broad guidelines and then engage policymakers on that subject matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof. Any further question? Okay. So on that note, we'll hand over the microphone to the board chair at this time to launch the population projections 2021 to
You are the man. Okay. I mean, it's really gives me great joy to track how far we've come as a country. And we've always had some projections of sorts, but I think this is one time that we have really brought everything together. We have all of you here, and we're launching this report, the population projections 2021-2050. We hope that this becomes your bedside storybook, and you check. The magic number is 37.2 million, which is 2030, at 2030. So on this note, we launched the population projections report 2021 to 2050. The launch.
Thank you very much, Madam. Thank you very much. We are grateful. So now the document is for you and me So let's go in, see what is there for us as we plan our programs, as we monitor the programs we've implemented. At least we have data to make sure that we get it right. On that note, I hand over again to our board chair and our chairperson for the day to give us her closing remarks. Madam.
Yeah. Thank you. This has been a very insightful, impressive function. We didn't start even a minute late. 9:30 sharp. I think we need to give ourselves a real applause. I hope that this sets the pattern for all that. If the country doesn't do it, at least we do. That will be a start, and everyone will launch onto it. As I said, you know, as we look at the report, we see the growth pattern, and we all know it's exponential. Even as the fertility is going down, mortality is going down, still there is that momentum of growth going up. And as the GS indicated, the government statistics, our population can, or the growth can go down, fertility can go down, but we have to watch that replacement level. Because when we look around, that's why many countries are now struggling. Of course, it benefits some of us when they are invited. All over the internet, everything you're doing, especially the news pages, this Canada advert comes. I mean, it's all over. And so population is an issue, population growth is an issue, fertility, high fertility is an issue, but there is an optimum level, and that is where we can all aim to reach, so that we have the quantum of population we need, our resources can support our population growth, and then we will be a happy country. So again, we want to encourage you to publicize the document, because what we have not had for some time now we have. It's available on the website. Let's do a lot of analysis. Most of you here can calculate race ratios, do some charts. Let's do some analysis with these data so that it can be known outside that work is going on. And we thank Achu also for the congratulations. Indeed, the Statistical Service is doing a lot, and if we can use the information, a lot will change in the way we manage our resources. We thank you once again for coming and wish you all a good reading of the book. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. And we bring in proceedings to a close. And we want to invite Alhaji Fuseni Mabruk to do us the honors of closing us with a prayer.
Thank you for the opportunity. Please, let's pray. Almighty God, we want to thank you for a successful program. We started this program in your name, and as we end, we want to end in your name. We thank you for the opportunity of being part of this program, and we want to thank you for the people who put up this report. We pray that the purpose of this report will be realized, that Ghana will use this report to the benefit of our country. As we end, we pray that those going back to continue their work, you should grant them traveling mercies. And those who are staying, you give them the energy to continue with the work that we plan to have here. We want to thank you for everything that you have enabled us to do for today. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.